The stars looked different tonight. Kim Day noticed this as he walked back from checking the rice fields. Something felt wrong, but he could not say what. The air was too quiet. Even the insects had stopped making noise. Day was a simple farmer, now, but he had not always grown rice. 10 years ago, he wore a soldier's uniform. He fought in places most people never heard of. He learned to trust his feelings when danger was near. Tonight, that old feeling came back. He walked faster toward his small house. Inside, warm light came from the kitchen window. His wife Parkhana was probably working late again. She always stayed up fixing things. Old farm machines, broken tools, anything that needed repair. She was good with her hands. Day smiled thinking about Hana. She used to fix much bigger things than farm tools. In the army, she could make bombs from kitchen supplies. She could take apart any machine and put it back together better than before. But those days were over. Now she fixed tractors instead of tanks. Their house sat at the edge of the village. Past the rice fields, the mountains looked dark against the sky. Everything seemed normal, but Day's old training whispered warnings in his head. High above the clouds, something watched the village below. Commander Thek studied the small settlement through his ship's sensors. The primitive creatures moved in, simple patterns. They worked in fields during the day. They slept in small shelters at night. Perfect specimens for the Empire's collection. Target confirmed, said his science officer. Adult female. Engaged in teaching activities with juvenile specimens. Low threat level. Thek nodded. The Empire needed new additions to their exotic creature exhibits. These humans looked promising. Not too large, not too aggressive. The female they had chosen seemed especially docile. She spent her days with small humans, probably feeding them or grooming them like domestic animals. Begin extraction protocol, Thek ordered. The Vaktar had studied human behavior for months. They watched their entertainment broadcasts. Humans appeared weak and emotional. The females were particularly gentle creatures who cared for others. This one would adapt well to captivity. Back in the village, Lee Baum finished cleaning her classroom. She was Day's younger sister, a teacher at the local school. She loved working with children. Every day she helped them learn about the world. She read them stories and taught them numbers. Baum was everything the aliens expected from a human, female, kind, gentle, and peaceful. She would never hurt anyone. She spent her evenings preparing lessons and drawing pictures for her students. She lived in a small apartment above the school. As she turned off the lights and prepared for bed, she did not know that alien eyes watched her every move. She did not know that tomorrow everything would change, but the aliens made a mistake, a big mistake. Day reached his house and opened the door. Hana, are you still awake? In the workshop, came her voice from the back room. Day found his wife bent over a complicated machine. Parts and tools covered the table around her. She wore old work clothes stained with oil and metal dust. Her hair was tied back, and she had a small cut on her finger from handling sharp metal. What are you working on now? Day asked. Hana looked up and smiled. The old harvester broke down again, but I think I can make it work better than before. She held up a modified engine part. This should give it more power. Day knew his wife's improvements were never simple. When Hana fixed something, it usually became something else entirely. Their rice harvester could probably cut through steel now. Their irrigation system could pump water uphill. Their farm tools were the strongest in the village. You should sleep, Dee said. It is late. Soon, Hana replied. I just want to finish this part. Day kissed her forehead and went to bed. Outside, the night remained strangely quiet. At midnight, the aliens struck. Their ship dropped silently from the clouds. Advanced technology made no sound as it approached the sleeping village. Sensors locked onto the target building. The gentle female teacher would be easy to take. But something went wrong. The ship's navigation system flickered. A power surge hit the targeting computer. Instead of the school building, the sensors focused on a different structure, the farmhouse at the edge of town. Target acquired, the science officer reported. not noticing the error. Extraction beams. Activated. The ship's tractor system reached down toward the sleeping village. But instead of taking the gentle schoolteacher from her bed, the beams found someone else. Hana woke up when her workshop began to glow with strange blue light. Tools. Rattled on the tables, metal parts rose into the air. She tried to stand, but invisible forces held her down. "Day!" she shouted. The extraction beam lifted her from the workshop. Through the window, she saw her house getting smaller below. Dai ran outside in his sleeping clothes, reaching up toward the sky. But she was already too high. The last thing Hana saw was her husband's face looking up at the strange lights in the sky. Inside the alien ship, Commander Thek watched his prize being brought aboard. The human female looked different than expected. She was covered in oil and holding some kind of metal device. Her clothes were dirty, and her hands had small cuts from working with tools. "This specimen appears damaged," the science officer said. "Perhaps they are naturally unclean," Thek replied. "Place it in containment. We will study it later." But as the extraction beam delivered Hana to the ship's holding area, it also brought something else. All around her, floating in the same energy field, were the contents of her workshop. Tools, machines, and several devices that looked very different from simple farm equipment. Hana had kept some of her old military projects, things she built during quiet evenings when memories of her soldier days came back. Harmless modifications to farm tools. At least they looked harmless. The aliens did not recognize what they had taken along with their prisoner. They saw metal and wires and simple human technology. They did not see the carefully designed explosive devices. They did not see the modified electronic systems. They did not see 20 years of military engineering experience disguised as farming equipment. Down in the village, Day stood in his empty workshop. Scorch marks covered the floor where the alien beam had touched down. His wife was gone. Strange metal fragments lay scattered around the room. But something else was missing too. All of Hana's special projects were gone. The ones she thought he did not know about. The ones that looked like farm tools but were really something much more dangerous. The aliens had not just kidnapped his wife. They had kidnapped his wife and given her a complete arsenal. Day smiled for the first time since seeing the lights in the sky. His wife was the wrong person to kidnap. And now, she was exactly where she needed to be. The aliens were about to learn why humanity had survived every war it ever fought. They were about to meet Park Hana. Aliens kidnapped the wrong wife. Now it's a problem, Park. Hana woke up in a metal box. The walls were smooth and silver. Strange lights blinked on the ceiling. The air smelled different here, like medicine and cold metal. This was not her workshop. This was not Earth. She sat up slowly and looked around. The room was small, maybe 3 meters wide. There was no door that she could see, no windows, just walls and lights and the quiet hum of machines. But she was not alone. All around her, scattered on the floor, were her tools and projects from the workshop. The aliens had taken everything that was caught in their beam. Hammers and screwdrivers lay next to her modified grain counter. Her improved water pump sat beside her special fertilizer spreader. Hana smiled. The aliens did not know what they had done. She picked up what looked like a simple soil tester. To alien eyes, it was just another farming tool. But Hana had built it from old military parts. Inside the innocent-looking device was enough explosive power to blow a hole in a tank. The aliens had given her everything she needed. Commander Thek watched the human through hidden cameras. The creature was examining the primitive tools that had come with it. Typical behavior for a domestic animal, he thought. It was probably looking for food. "The specimen appears calm," said Science Officer Vex. "No signs of distress or aggression." "Good," Thek replied. "Begin basic behavioral studies. We need to understand how to properly care for these creatures." But as they watched, Hana did something unexpected. Instead of cowering in fear, she began to examine her prison walls. She ran her hands along the smooth metal, testing for weak points. She studied the lights in the ceiling, trying to understand how they worked. "Curious behavior," Vex noted. Perhaps this is how they search for nesting materials. Thek nodded. The human was probably trying to make itself comfortable. Soon it would settle down and accept its new life. They were very wrong. Hana found what she was looking for. In one corner of the room, the wall panels did not fit together perfectly. There was a tiny gap, barely visible. But Hana's trained eyes caught it immediately. She selected a thin metal tool from her collection. To the aliens, it looked like a plant measuring device. Actually, it was a lockpick she had modified years ago. Old habits were hard to break. Working carefully, Hana began to probe the gap in the wall panels. After several minutes, she heard a soft click. A hidden panel slid open, revealing the ship's internal systems. Cables and circuits ran behind the walls like the nerves of some giant creature. Hana recognized some of the technology. It was more advanced than human equipment, but it followed the same basic principles. Electricity was electricity. Logic circuits were logic circuits. She had found the ship's nervous system. On the bridge, alarms began to sound. "Commander," the science officer called out. "We are detecting system fluctuations in Section 7. "What kind of fluctuations?" Thek demanded. "Unknown. The diagnostic systems show everything is normal, but the power readings are inconsistent." Thek frowned. "Check the specimen." The camera view showed the human sitting quietly in the center of its cell, surrounded by its primitive tools. It appeared to be resting. "The creature is inactive," Vex reported. "No unusual behavior detected." But the cameras could not see what Hana was really doing. While she sat in the center of the room, her hands worked behind her back. Thin wires ran from her fingers to the open wall panel. She had connected her modified soil tester to the ship's electrical system. The device was designed to analyze Earth samples, but with a few adjustments it could analyze any electrical system, including alien technology. Information flowed into the small device: power levels, system layouts, security protocols. Hana was learning how the ship worked from the inside. Meanwhile, on Earth, Kim Dae was not sitting quietly. He stood in the local police station trying to explain what had happened. The officers looked at him like he was crazy. "Aliens?" Police Chief Yu laughed. "Mr. Kim, maybe you had too much rice wine last night." "I know what I saw," Dae insisted. "Strange lights took my wife. There are burn marks in my workshop." "Probably lightning," the chief said. "Your wife probably went to visit her mother. She will come back when she gets tired of the city." But Dae knew better. He had seen things during his military service that most people would not believe. The world was bigger and stranger than people knew. He left the police station and drove to the nearest city. There, he found an old friend from his army days. Captain Ro Jin worked for a special government department. Officially, they investigated unusual incidents. Unofficially, they dealt with problems that normal police could not handle. "Dae?" Ro looked surprised. "I thought you were growing rice now." "I need help," Dae said. "Something took my wife. Something not from Earth." Ro's expression changed. He looked around to make sure no one was listening, then pulled Dae into a private office. "Tell me everything," Ro said quietly. Dae described the strange lights, the missing time, the burn marks in his workshop. He told Ro about his wife's special projects, the ones that looked like farm tools but were really weapons. Ro listened without interrupting. When Dae finished, the captain was quiet for a long moment. "You are not the first," Ro finally said. "We have had reports from around the world. People disappearing in beams of light. Always at night. Always people living alone or in small groups." "Can you help me find her?" Dae asked. "I can try," Ro replied. "But Dae, you need to understand something. The people who are taken, they do not usually come back." "My wife is different," Dae said. "Different how?" Dae smiled grimly. "She is the wrong person to kidnap." Back on the alien ship, Hana was proving exactly that. She had been studying the ship's systems for 6 hours. Her soil testing device had mapped the entire electrical network. She knew where the power came from, where it went, and how to disrupt. And more importantly, she had found the communication system. Using components from her grain counter and water pump, Hana built a simple transmitter. It was crude compared to alien technology, but it worked on the same basic principles as the ship's own communication array. She could send a message to Earth. The message had to be short and coded. The aliens would detect any long transmission. But Hana remembered her military training. She knew codes that Day would recognize. Working quickly, she connected her transmitter to the ship's communication system. For just a few seconds, she borrowed their powerful antenna to send a signal across space. The message was simple. Location compromised. Package secure. Send backup. In the military, it meant that a spy had been discovered but still had their weapons. They needed rescue, but they could fight until help arrived. On Earth, in a small farmhouse, an old military radio crackled to life. Day kept it for emergencies, though he never expected to need it. He heard the coded message and smiled. His wife was alive. She was fighting, and she was telling him exactly what he needed to know. The aliens had made two mistakes. First, they had taken the wrong wife. Second, they had given her all the tools she needed to fight back. Now Hana knew how their ship worked. She had weapons they did not recognize, and she had just told her husband where to find her. The real battle was about to begin. 3 days had passed since the kidnapping. On the alien ship, things were going very wrong. Commander Thek stared at his status reports in confusion. Systems were failing throughout the ship. Not big failures that would kill everyone. Small, annoying problems that made no sense. The food processors stopped working for exactly 1 hour each day, always at mealtime. The gravity in Corridor 7 kept switching on and off randomly. The lights in the crew quarters flickered in patterns that hurt the eyes. The waste disposal system played human music. "How is this possible?" Thek demanded. "Our technology is perfect. Science." Officer Vex looked nervous. "Perhaps there is a computer virus, Commander. Or maybe space radiation is affecting our systems." But they both knew that was not true. Their ship was built to handle anything space could throw at it. These problems were too precise, too perfectly timed to be accidents. In her cell, Park Hana was having the time of her life. She had spent 3 days learning everything about the ship's computer systems. The aliens used artificial intelligence for almost everything. They trusted their machines completely. They never expected anyone to manually override their perfect technology. That was their weakness. Hana's military training had taught her that. Every system had manual backups, even alien systems. She just had to find them and figure out how they worked. Her modified farming tools helped with this. What looked like a simple seed counter was actually a sophisticated electronic scanner. Her irrigation timer had been rebuilt into a code-breaking device. Her soil pH tester could hack into any computer system. The aliens saw harmless farming equipment. Hana had a complete electronic warfare suite. She started with small tests, making lights flicker, changing the temperature by 1 degree. Nothing dangerous, just enough to see how the ship's computers reacted. The aliens' AI tried to fix each problem automatically, but Hana's changes looked like normal wear and tear, not sabotage. The computer could not understand what was happening, so Hana got bolder. She reprogrammed the food processors to stop working at mealtimes. She made the gravity generators cycle on and off in patterns that would not hurt anyone, but would be very annoying. She even figured out how to access the ship's entertainment system and replace alien music with old human songs from her husband's radio. Every change was small. Every change looked like an accident. But together they were driving the aliens crazy. Commander Thek was beginning to suspect their human prisoner. "Show me the creature again," he ordered. The camera view revealed Hana sitting peacefully in her cell. She appeared to be sleeping, curled up in one corner with her primitive tools scattered around her. She had not moved in hours, but cameras only showed what happened in front of them. They could not see the thin wires running from Hana's position to the access panel behind her. They could not see her fingers working on a small device hidden under her body. They could not see the satisfied smile on her face as another system failure alert sounded on the bridge. "The creature appears inactive," Vex reported. "Perhaps these system failures are not related to our specimen." "Perhaps," Thek said, but his military instincts were telling him something different. On Earth, Kim Dae was preparing for war. Captain Ro Jin had taken Hana's coded message to his superiors. Within hours, Dae found himself in a secret military facility deep underground. The room was full of computers and maps and people in uniforms. On the walls were pictures of strange aircraft and classified reports about unusual incidents. "Your wife's message confirms what we suspected," said Colonel Yun Ho, the facility commander. "The abductions are not random. Someone is collecting humans for a specific purpose." "Can you track the ship?" Dae asked. "We have been trying," Yun replied. "But their technology is too advanced. Until now." He pointed to a display screen showing radio signals from space. "Your wife has been sending regular transmissions, very short bursts, coded in old military format. She is telling us exactly where she is." Dae studied the signals. Hana was not just calling for help. She was providing intelligence, ship layout, crew numbers, weapon systems, travel routes, everything a rescue team would need to know. "She is mapping their entire ship for us," Dae realized. "More than that," Yun said. "Look at this pattern." The display showed the alien ship's course over the past 3 days. Instead of traveling in a straight line toward their destination, the ship kept changing direction. Small course corrections that looked like navigation errors. "Your wife is not just studying their ship," Yun explained. "She is controlling it." Dae felt proud and worried at the same time. Hana was incredibly brave, but she was also taking huge risks. If the aliens discovered what she was doing, they might kill her. "We have to get her out of there," Dae said. "Agreed," Yun replied. "But we need the right equipment." He led Dae to another room filled with strange machines and vehicles. Some looked almost alien themselves. "We have been preparing for this possibility," Yun explained. "Studying crashed alien technology, building countermeasures, training special teams." In the center of the room sat a sleek aircraft unlike anything Dae had ever seen. It was part human engineering, part alien technology, all deadly. "This is the Dragon," Yun said. "Our first interstellar fighter. It can match alien speed and firepower." "Can it reach my wife?" Dae asked. "With the right pilot," Yun replied. "Someone who knows the target personally, someone who can recognize her signals and coordinate with her sabotage efforts." Dae understood. "You want me to fly it?" "Your wife is not just a prisoner anymore," Yun explained. "She is our intelligence asset inside an alien ship. This rescue mission requires perfect coordination between our forces and her sabotage. You are the only person who knows her well enough to predict her actions." Dae nodded. He had not flown a combat mission in 10 years, but some skills never faded, and no one was more motivated to succeed than a husband rescuing his wife. Back on the alien ship, Admiral Kren was losing patience. He had received Commander Thek's reports about system failures and strange malfunctions. The ship carrying their prize human specimen was falling apart. "This is unacceptable," Kren declared. "Our technology does not fail without reason." "Perhaps the human creature is somehow responsible," suggested his science advisor. Kren laughed. "Impossible. These creatures are barely more intelligent than domestic animals. They cannot possibly understand our technology." But even as he spoke, another message arrived from Thek's ship. The navigation system had malfunctioned again. They were off course and their arrival would be delayed by several days. "Bring the ship to Fleet Base 7, Kren ordered. "We will examine this creature ourselves and determine what is causing these problems." The Admiral sent new coordinates to Thek's ship, but he did not know that every communication was being intercepted and decoded by the very creature he dismissed as a simple animal. Hana received the new destination information and immediately began encoding it for transmission to Earth. But she also did something else. She started preparing for visitors. The aliens were bringing their ship to a military base. That meant more guards, better security, and sophisticated detection equipment. Her sabotage would become much more difficult. But it also meant opportunity. A military base would have better weapons, more advanced technology, and access to the alien fleet's central computers. If she could maintain her deception just a little longer, she might be able to do more than escape. She might be able to gather intelligence that would change the balance of power between humans and aliens forever. Hana smiled as she sent her latest message to Earth. The coordinates of Admiral Kren's secret base, along with a simple notation. Target-rich environment. Proceeding as planned. Her husband would understand. The mission was expanding beyond simple rescue. The aliens thought they had captured a primitive creature. Instead, they had brought a human intelligence operative directly into the heart of their military operations, and she was just getting started. Fleet Base 7 was the largest military station in the Vaktar Empire. Hundreds of ships floated around the massive structure like metal fish around a coral reef. Admiral Kren's flagship, the Destroyer, sat in the center of it all. Commander Thek's damaged ship limped toward the docking bay. The journey had been a nightmare. Systems failed every few hours. The navigation computer kept plotting courses to random locations. The crew was exhausted from constant repairs. Finally, Thek muttered as the docking clamps engaged. We can get rid of this cursed creature and find out what went wrong. But Park Hana was not ready to be gotten rid of. During the final approach to the base, she had worked frantically to gather intelligence. Her modified soil tester recorded everything it could detect through the ship's sensors: fleet positions, communication frequencies, security codes, weapon specifications. The aliens had no idea their prisoner was creating a complete map of their most secret military base. As the ship docked, Hana quickly hid her tools and pretended to sleep. But under her body, thin wires still connected her devices to the ship's computer systems. Even now, she was downloading the base's personnel files and security protocols. Admiral Kren boarded Thek's ship with a team of scientists and security guards. He wanted to see this troublesome creature for himself. "Where is the specimen?" Kren demanded. "In the holding cell, Admiral," Thek replied. "It has been inactive for most of the journey." They walked through corridors filled with repair crews. Everywhere, technicians worked to fix the mysterious system failures that had plagued the ship. "I do not understand how one primitive creature could cause so much damage," Kren said. "Perhaps it carries some kind of biological weapon," suggested Dr. Vex. "A virus that affects our technology." They reached the holding cell and peered through the observation window. Inside, Hana lay curled in a corner, surrounded by her innocent-looking farming tools. She appeared to be sleeping peacefully. "It looks harmless," Kren observed, "almost like a domestic pet." But even as he spoke, another system alarm sounded. The ship's waste processing system had just started playing human music again. Far from the alien base, Kim Dae prepared for the most important mission of his life. The Dragon Fighter was unlike anything he had ever flown. Human engineering combined with alien technology to create something that should not exist. The controls felt familiar but responded faster than any human aircraft. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy a building with a single shot. "Remember, this is not just a rescue mission," Colonel Yun briefed him. "Your wife has been sending intelligence for days. She has turned this into an espionage operation. Do not waste her sacrifice." Dae studied the navigation display. Hana's latest transmission had included the exact location of Fleet Base 7. She had also sent detailed information about their defenses, patrol routes, and command structure. "She has given us everything we need to strike at the heart of their military," Yun continued. "But the window of opportunity is small. Once they discover what she has been doing, they will increase security." "Then we go now," Dae said, climbing into the Dragon's cockpit. The fighter launched from Earth's hidden military base and accelerated toward the stars. Its hybrid engines could reach speeds that no purely human ship could match. The journey to Fleet Base 7 would take 6 hours instead of 6 months. Back at the alien base, Admiral Kren was growing suspicious. "Run a complete diagnostic on the human specimen," he ordered. "I want to know if it is carrying any biological or technological contaminants." Dr. Vex began scanning Hana with sophisticated medical equipment, but the scans only showed a normal human female in good health. There was no sign of disease or hidden technology. What the scans could not detect were the microscopic modifications Hana had made to her own farming tools. The devices looked exactly like simple human equipment, but their internal circuits had been carefully altered using techniques learned in the military. The creature appears normal, Dr. Vex reported. No signs of contamination or unusual biology. But Kren's military instincts were screaming warnings. Too many coincidences, too many perfectly timed failures. This was not accident or disease. This was sabotage. Isolate the specimen completely, he ordered. No connection to ship systems. Full electromagnetic shielding. The guards prepared to move Hana to a special containment facility designed to hold the most dangerous prisoners. As they entered her cell, she pretended to wake up slowly, acting confused and frightened. But secretly, she was smiling. She had accomplished her mission. The intelligence was already transmitted. Earth's military now knew everything about Fleet, Base 7's defenses and capabilities, and her husband was coming. The Dragon fighter dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vaktar system. Immediately, Day's sensors detected the massive alien fleet surrounding Fleet Base 7. Hundreds of ships, he whispered into his radio. This is their main base. Copy that, Dragon, came Colonel Yun's voice from Earth. Your wife's intelligence was accurate. Proceed with the mission. Day activated the Dragon's stealth systems and began his approach. The ship's alien-derived technology made it nearly invisible to Vaktar sensors. He could slip through their defenses undetected, but he was not planning to be subtle. As the Dragon approached the base, Dai transmitted a message on all Vaktar communication frequencies. He used the command codes that Hana had stolen and sent to Earth. This is Kim Day of Earth, his voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. You have taken my wife. Return her now, or face the consequences. The effect was immediate chaos. Alarms sounded throughout Fleet Base 7. Ships scrambled to launch. Weapon systems powered up. Admiral Kren rushed to the command center in complete panic. How is a primitive human ship transmitting on our secure channels? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral, his communications officer replied. The transmission is using current command codes. High-level access. Kren's face went pale. Command codes were changed daily and known only to senior officers. If humans had access to that information, it meant they had been infiltrated at the highest levels, or it meant their harmless prisoner was not harmless at all. Find that human female immediately, Kren roared. But it was too late. In her new, high-security cell, Hana was putting the final phase of her plan into action. The containment facility was connected to the base's main computer network for monitoring purposes. The aliens had tried to isolate her from ship systems, but they had accidentally given her access to something much more valuable. Fleet Base 7's central command computer. Using her last hidden device, a grain moisture sensor that was actually a military-grade hacking tool, Hana began her final assault on Vaktar technology. She did not just break into their computer systems. She took them over completely. Throughout the base, weapon systems began targeting each other. Navigation computers sent ships on collision courses. Life support systems shut down in non-essential areas. Communication networks broadcast embarrassing personal messages between alien officers. Admiral Kren watched in horror as his mighty fleet descended into chaos. Ships crashed into each other trying to avoid imaginary threats. Weapons fired randomly into space. The base's defensive systems began attacking their own ships. Stop this, he screamed at his technicians. Regain control. But there was no control to regain. Every computer system on the base was now under the command of a human female who had spent 3 days learning their weaknesses. And somewhere in that chaos, Kim Day's Dragon fighter moved like a deadly shadow, using the confusion to penetrate deeper into the base's defenses. The aliens had kidnapped the wrong wife. Now they were about to learn what that mistake would cost them. The Vaktar Empire was about to meet humanity at war, and humanity was very, very good at war. The battle for Fleet Base 7 lasted exactly 47 minutes. Kim Day's Dragon fighter sliced through the chaos that his wife had created. Alien ships fired at each other while their computers showed false targets. Defense systems attacked their own fleet while navigation computers sent vessels spinning out of control. In the middle of this madness, one small human fighter moved with perfect precision toward the base's detention center. Admiral Kren watched his mighty fleet destroy itself, and finally understood the truth. The primitive creatures they had dismissed as pets were actually the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. "Send a message to the Empire," he told his communications officer. "We have made a terrible mistake." But the communications systems were under Park Hana's control now. Instead of his urgent warning, the message that went out across the galaxy was much different. "This is Admiral Kren," Hana's voice said, using the ship's translation system. "The human species has defeated our entire fleet using superior tactics and technology. All Vaktar forces should surrender immediately." The real Admiral Kren could only watch in horror as his own voice betrayed the Empire to every species they had ever conquered. Deep in the base's detention center, Hana heard the sound she had been waiting for. The distinctive whine of dragonfighter engines. Her husband had come for her, just as she knew he would. The detention center's doors exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris came a figure in black combat armor, moving with the deadly grace of a trained soldier. "Hello, husband," Hana said calmly. "Hello, wife," Day replied, cutting through her cell's force field with a plasma torch. "Are you ready to go home?" "Almost," Hana said, gathering her modified farming tools. "I have one more thing to do." She led him to the detention center's main computer terminal. Her hands flew over the alien interface as if she had been using it her whole life. "What are you doing?" Day asked. "Downloading everything," Hana replied. "Military plans, fleet positions, technological specifications, the locations of every world they have conquered. All of it." "How long will this take?" 2 minutes, Hana said. "But husband, we are not just rescuing me anymore. We are liberating an entire galaxy." Through the computer networks she now controlled, Hana sent a message to every enslaved world in the Vaktar Empire. The message was simple but devastating. "This is Park Hana of Earth. The Vaktar fleet has been defeated. Their military codes and ship locations are attached to this message. You are free to take revenge." Across the galaxy, species that had been enslaved for generations suddenly found themselves with the tools they needed for rebellion. Vaktar patrol ships discovered that their own weapons were turning against them. Garrison forces found their communications cut, and their supply lines attacked by the very slaves they had oppressed. The Empire began to collapse in hours instead of years. "Download complete," Hana announced. "Now we can go home." Day helped her gather her tools and they ran toward his fighter. Behind them, Fleet Base 7 continued to tear itself apart as its own systems followed Hana's final programming. They reached the Dragon just as Admiral Kren's security forces arrived, but the alien soldiers moved slowly and awkwardly, confused by the chaos around them. Day and Hana moved like a team that had trained together for years, which in a way they had. The Dragon launched from the collapsing base and accelerated toward home. Around them, the Vaktar fleet continued to fire on itself while alien commanders screamed orders that no one could follow. "The intelligence you gathered," Day said as they flew through hyperspace. "It will change everything." "I know," Hana replied. "The aliens made 3 mistakes. First, they took the wrong wife. Second, they gave me access to their technology. Third, they underestimated what humans do when someone threatens our families." Back on Earth, Colonel Yun received their transmission with amazement. The intelligence package that Hana had stolen contained the complete military structure of an interstellar empire: fleet positions, supply routes, technological specifications, the locations of every conquered world. More importantly, it contained proof that the Vaktar Empire was not invincible. They could be defeated by superior tactics and the will to fight. Within days, Earth's governments received visits from representatives of dozens of alien species. Not conquerors this time, but allies. Species that had been freed by Hana's actions and wanted to join humanity in building something better than the empire that had oppressed them. The galaxy had changed forever. 6 months later, Dai and Hana sat on the porch of their rebuilt farmhouse. The rice field stretched green and peaceful toward the mountains. Everything looked normal, but nothing was the same. Their farm was now the unofficial headquarters of the new Galactic Defense Alliance. Ships from a dozen worlds landed regularly in what used to be their backyard. Former slaves came to Earth to learn human military tactics. Scientists shared technology that made everyone stronger. "Do you miss the quiet life?" Day asked his wife. Hannah looked up from the device she was repairing. It looked like a simple irrigation controller, but Day knew better. His wife's farming equipment was now standard issue for Alliance forces throughout the galaxy. "The quiet life was nice," Hannah said. "But this is better. We are not just growing rice anymore. We are growing freedom." In the distance, a ship from the former Vaktar worlds approached their landing pad. The crew were refugees who had escaped slavery and wanted to learn how humans fought so effectively with inferior technology. Day smiled as he watched his wife prepare to teach another class in agricultural engineering. The aliens had kidnapped the wrong wife, but that mistake had freed a galaxy. He went inside to prepare dinner for their guests. After all, even galactic revolutionaries needed to eat. And in the workshop behind their house, Hannah's latest project hummed quietly. To alien eyes, it looked like a grain storage system. Actually, it was a communication array capable of reaching every free world in the galaxy, because Park Hannah had learned something important during her 3 days on an alien ship. The best weapons were not the ones that destroyed your enemies. The best weapons were the ones that turned your enemies into friends. The Vaktar Empire was gone, but its former subjects were building something better, a galaxy where no one would ever again mistake strength for cruelty or technology for wisdom. And at the center of it all, a farmer and his wife continued to grow the things that mattered most: food for the body, knowledge for the mind, and freedom for the soul. The aliens had kidnapped the wrong wife. But that mistake had given the galaxy exactly what it needed: a reminder that the strongest species was not always the one with the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. Sometimes the strongest species was the one that refused to give up, no matter what the odds. Sometimes the strongest species was the one that turned every challenge into an opportunity to grow. The end.